Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Rakah, Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessing, salutations to the hopeful elect of Israel. All right, let's listen. I'm going to, read some of these from the Northern Kingdom. How the conquistadors treated them, some of the terrible things that they did. Because we know for the Southern Kingdom, people always mention, they talk about the slave trade, and which, Northern Kingdom was in that too, in slavery. And they talk about, so-called Negroes, all the things that they've done, fed them to gators, the slave trade on the boats, they, basically defecated and all that on each other. A lot of them died just on the way over, and all these other things, hung them from trees all the time, killed them, castrated them, cut open a woman's stomach and ripped the baby out. They killed babies and raped women. They raped men even. Right? They did all these terrible things. And but this lesson, I'm going to be looking at the Northern Kingdom. We're going to go through some of the things that the conquistadors did, which means conquerors or he who conquers, something like that. All right, conquistadors, which were Spanish Edomites, all right, that came over from Spain to certain areas such as the Indies and parts of the Americas. Okay, and and mainly was South America and the Indies. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Central America and Mexico. But the point is, the northern tribes, right? Which there were probably southern, Israelites, Southern Kingdom Israelites there as well, but nonetheless, all right. Because people, talk about the so-called Negroes, Southern Kingdom, all the stuff that they went through, which they went through complete hell, but so did the Northern Kingdom, okay. And people don't really bring that out. So I found this, and I wanted to bring it out, okay, in a video. Because, in many other videos, I brought out the things done in the Southern Kingdom as well, all right? So this is first one we're going to be looking at. It says, in his book, Devastation of the Indies, Fray Bartolome de las Casas wrote about conquistadors training dogs to attack and kill natives. Okay, and this is another thing that I'm kind of just going to put out there. We say so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the Israelites, but really it's people of so-called Negro and Indian descent, right? Because Latino and Hispanic is really just a label put on people born in a Latin country or a descendant of somebody, from Latin countries. Okay, so anybody can really, any nation can be born in a Latin country and call themselves Latino. Okay, so really it'd be the so-called Negroes and so-called Indians. All right. The Spaniards trained their fierce dogs to attack, kill, and tear to pieces the Indians. The Spaniards keep alive their dogs' appetite for human beings in this way. They have Indians brought to them in chains, then unleash the dogs. The Indians come meekly down the roads and are killed. And the Spaniards have butcher shops where the corpses of Indians are hung up on display, and someone will come in and say, more or less, give me a quarter of that rascal hanging there to feed my dogs until I can kill another one of them. All right, ignore the ads and the notifications. So Lakia, Akim Wakwathim with the notifications. I don't know when brothers are going to message me exactly, so. On to the next one. So that one is they fed them to the dogs. All right, they fed native people to dogs. They devised a way to hang natives and burn them alive simultaneously. The conquistadors often devised ways to make the deaths of the native peoples as elaborate and painful as possible. In his book, The Devastation of the Indies, Fray Bartolome de las Casas, if that's how you pronounce that, wrote, they built a long gibbet low enough for the toes to touch the ground and prevent strangling, and hanged 13 natives at a time in honor of Christ our Savior and the 12 apostles. Now this is another thing, all right? Those Spanish, they worship Serapis. Okay, they did plantation Christianity, which they forced that Christianity on the Northern Kingdom. Okay, the worship of Serapis, so-called Jesus Christ, which is Serapis. All right, the true names of the Father, because there's only one name for each. I was saying names as in because it's two of them. The true name of the Father is Yahawah. The true name of the Son is Yahawashi. Okay, and they're both so-called black men with white woolly hair. Okay, with woolly hair. So they worship Serapis, and they then those so-called whitewashed images, right? Then once the natives were near death, straw was wrapped around their torn bodies, and they were burned alive. It's just terrible, man. The things they did to the Southern and Northern Kingdom. And these, keep in mind, the same people that had so-called Negroes in slavery, these are the same people. They're just under different labels, all right? The conquistadors, the Spaniards, all right? Some of the Spaniards are Israelites, but these conquistadors are Edomites, okay? The conquistadors' brutality wasn't limited to native soldiers or even to adults. Or to even adults. According to contemporary reports by Spanish priest Fray Bartolomé de las Casas, they snatched young babes from the mother's breasts and then dashed out the brains of those innocents against the rocks. Others they cast into rivers, scoffing and jeering them, and called upon their bodies when falling with derision, the true testimony of their cruelty to come to them, and inhumanely exposing others to their merciless swords, together with the mothers that gave them life. All right. The next one, they threw native people into pits and left them to die. The Spanish conquistadors would dig large pits and fill them with sharp stakes. Then pregnant and confined women, children, old men, as many as they could capture, were thrown into the pits and left there, often impaled on the stakes until the pits were filled and everyone had died. All right? Not going to read all of these, but they used native people to test the strength of their swords. Captured natives were sometimes butchered by conquistadors, aiming to test the quality of their swords as well as their own strength. The conquistadors would even place bets on the slicing off of heads or the cutting of bodies in half with one blow. All right, so they took it as a joke. They thought it was fun. All right. Well, actually, I'll read this one too. They vowed to spare an Inca ruler for converting to Christianity, which is worship of Serapis. All right, the one that they did, their religion, then killed him anyway. In 1533, Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro captured the Inca leader Atahualpa. In order to save his own life, Atahualpa promised to fill a 24-foot long, 18-foot wide, and a 8-foot tall room with gold and then double that amount in silver. Pizarro, you gotta roll the R's and stuff, quickly accepted the deal. But as the riches were slowly delivered over the next 2 months, the Spanish conquistadors grew paranoid that it was a trick. So Pizarro sentenced Atahualpa to be burned alive. But Atahualpa knew Pizarro would never burn a Christian, so he converted. This worked, and the conquistadors garroted him instead. Which, let me look up what that means, because I don't exactly know what that means. Okay. Yeah, I had a feeling it was some sort of execution, but it sounded like it was something with suffocation, but they spread devastating disease. The most deadly tool of the conquistadors was inadvertent disease. Like previous European explorers, which they actually stole Europe as well, all right, from the Japhetic people. Explorers before them, when the conquistadors landed in the Americas, they unknowingly spread smallpox and measles. Since these diseases were new to the Aztec world, the epidemic spread quickly, eventually killing 90% of the indigenous population, according to Michael Oldstone in his book Virus, Plagues, and History. Which, I don't know if that's true, because, these devils, they try to say that those people, like the Aztecs, Mayans, and Incas, that they just disappeared, all right, that they're not there anymore, okay, or they got wiped out, which is false. Okay, I don't know exactly, how it happened. I'm sure a lot of the Aztecs did die from a disease, but it doesn't mean all of them, or 90% of them. That's probably bullshit. Okay. Anyways, continuing on. They cut off native people's hands. In his book, The Devastation of the Indies, Fray Bartolome de la Casas, or Casas, I don't know how you pronounce that last one, tells the story of a conquistador who captured a great many natives, but when the Indians would not tell him who their new lord was, he cut off the hands of some and threw others to the dogs. Alright? They gathered Aztec nobles in a courtyard, then slaughtered them. In 1519, Aztec nobles, priests, and leaders were led into a courtyard in the city of Cholula. Then conquistadors under the orders of Hernan Cortez, which is the main conquistador guy, attacked and slaughtered the unarmed crowd. Soon thereafter, the city itself was attacked by Tlaxcalan soldiers. Tlaxcalans were longtime enemies of the Aztecs and allied with the Spanish against them. In the end, thousands of Cholulans were dead, and Cholula, one of the key cities of the Aztec Empire, was left in ruins. They forced native people into slavery and worked them to death. All right, and this, none of these are covering North America, but North America was the same way. They had them in slavery, and they did the same type of horrific things, man. Especially smallpox. That definitely they did biological warfare. All right, and they broke a lot of peace treaties, because that's the devil for you, man. The Spanish would treat the captive native population abhorrently, driving them day and night with beatings, kicks, lashes, and blows. Even new mothers were forced into labor immediately after giving birth. If they could not care for their children, the infants would be cast aside on the road and thus perished. They burned them alive in their own homes. In one horrific episode in Fray Bartolome de la Casas book, The Devastation of the Indies, he wrote of a group of native Indians who had given a great deal of gold to the Spanish. Afterwards, the conquistadors shut them up in 3 big houses, crowding in as many as they could, then set fire to the houses, burning alive all that were in them. They mutilated their faces. Now listen to this one. Well, I would assume that you're listening to all of them, but listen to this one too, the last part. The conquistadors were known to mutilate the native population, often for no reason and with no provocation. Spanish priest Fray Bartolome de las Casas wrote, "With my own eyes I saw Spaniards cut off the nose, hands, and ears of Indians, male and female, without provocation." Now listen to this. Merely because it pleased them to do it. They used skull-crushing spiked weapons during battle. Recently, unearthed skeletons belonging to Inca warriors in Peru reveal fatal skull fractures caused by Spanish weapons, specifically medieval weapons tipped with steel spikes or sharp beaks. According to anthropologist Melissa Murphy, who uncovered Incan remains from the period, the nature and pattern of these skeletal injuries were unlike anything colleagues and I had seen before. Many of these people died brutal, horrible deaths. They enslaved 2,000 men and burned priests alive in retaliation for 15 European deaths. In 1546, 15 European colonists were killed by the Maya. The Spanish conquistadors in turn punished the Maya by enslaving 2,000 men, hanging their women, and burning Mayan priests alive. And now, what this reminds me of is, because they're the northern tribes, and, the southern tribes and the northern all went through their own types of hell. Southern Kingdom, I've made videos about the type of hell that they've gone through, and I actually may make some more, because this is history that we should go into, man, because this is stuff that the devil did to us, that our worst enemy did to us, okay? And, we act spiritual, and we're not going to, act physically on it, at least not yet, all right? But we need to trust Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, that they will, that these heathen nations will get their judgment, man. And, well, all these are the Edomites, but this right here remind me of, because he said 15 European deaths, since that happened, they enslaved 2,000 men and burned priests alive, right? That reminds me of when Boaz killed that Roman guard, and Pilate, I don't remember how many, he crucified a certain amount of Jews each day, and it was well over one. It was like 10. I don't remember how many it was. I don't remember, but it's like he kept crucifying a lot of them, and eventually it got to more and more until they turned in the guy who did it. The point is they something happens to them, and they'll hit back way harder and more brutally. Okay. According to historian Henry Kamen, the cruelty of the Spaniards in the New World was incontrovertible. It was pitiless, barbaric, and never brought under control by the colonial regime. They tied up a queen and used her for target practice. In April of 1539, conquistador Francisco Pizarro invaded the Neo-Inca state of Vilcabamba, Pizarro was looking for their leader, Manco Inca Yupan Key, but instead found the queen, Cora Aclo. She was tied to a stake as conquistadors used her as target practice, shooting her with bamboo arrows. After she was dead, they put her body in a basket and sent it down the Vilcanota River so it could eventually be found in Manco Inca. All right, so that's all of them. All right, which I might look into. I will look into this book, Devastation of the Indies by Fray Bartolome de las Casas, or however you pronounce it. All right, but that just shows you that the Southern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom went through complete hell. All right, and all by the same people, really. By all nations, but especially the main enemy, Esau. All right, Esau, Edom, the Edomites, so-called white people. Okay, and they're gonna have to pay for what they did. All right, and notice how on that one where it said they mutilated them, it said that because it pleased them to do so. Well, I got a precept. This is Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred for who? The children of Israel. They hate us, right? And hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahawah, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sith thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. All right. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men. In thy hills, and in thy valleys, and in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy city shall not return, and ye shall know that I am Yahawah. Okay. Now let's go to the book of Obadiah, chapter 1. We can start at... Well, we can kind of skip through here. You can read the whole book of Obadiah. It's only one chapter. For thy violence, is verse 10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Southern, northern kingdom doesn't matter. They're both from Jacob. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. This is talking about Esau, all right, the Edomites. After 1,000 years of slavery, they're going to be cut off completely. Verse 15, for the day of Yahawah is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. All right, so, they have to take this punishment whether they want to or not, because of course they don't want to. All right, if you know Edomites, even a little bit, you'll know that they can't deal with adversity. All right, a little bit of adversity comes about, and they think that they're the most oppressed people in the world, even though they're in rulership. All right, and they'll even kill themselves, overdose on opioids, whatever. All right. So they don't, they love, killing people and pillaging people, stealing stuff. But when it comes about to them, when they have to answer for what they did, now all of a sudden they're nowhere to be found. Now, well, that wasn't them. That wasn't me. That was my ancestors, or this and that. There's reincarnation in the Bible. Okay, and besides, even if you want to say it is your ancestors, it doesn't matter. Okay, because like I said, there's reincarnation in the Bible. But let's read this. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Okay? Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. All right? The southern and the northern kingdom, you so-called Negroes and so-called Indians, or, known as so-called Latinos and Hispanics, went through hell, man. All right, we as a nation. This is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1. For Yahawah will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them, and shall bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahawah for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Okay? And who's our biggest oppressor? Esau. All right? But, and I'm going to say this, all right? Esau is not our biggest enemy. Okay? Our number one enemy is our flesh. Okay? Because if we didn't sin and we weren't disobedient, they would never rule over us in the first place. Okay? So the best part, about the new bodies that we're going to get is that we won't sin. All right? And the southern and northern kingdom are going to become one. Because they did separate after Solomon died. This is Ezekiel chapter 37. Start at verse 21. And say unto them, Thus saith Yahawah, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, we're scattered among the heathen right now. We even have people that look like not so-called, but look like these heathen nations, but their father's patrilineal line goes back to the tribe, okay, which makes them an Israelite. And will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. Because right now there's Edomites in our land. Well, there's all sorts of different nations in our land. There's some Israelites too, but the people that call themselves Jews or Jewish are Edomites. All right, they're Amalekites. And bring them into their own land, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. Okay? And that's coming, man. All right? Yahawah is going to send his son Yahawashi with the angels, and they're going to gather the elect. Okay? This is Jeremiah chapter 50, Verse 33, thus saith Yahawah of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Okay? Now let's go to Deuteronomy. Because these Deuteronomy 28 curses fell on the southern and the northern kingdom, man. Because like I said, we talked about the southern kingdom things, the way it went through, and, I found that and I wanted to talk about it. Bring out what the northern kingdom went through. All right? Southern and northern kingdom went through horrendous things, man. But we deserved it. Okay? And we learned our lesson. Well, 2/3 of our people have to die the death of heathens on this side, but nonetheless. Okay? Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahawah thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Okay? And from verse 15 all the way down to 68, all these curses fell upon every tribe, man. Southern and northern kingdom. Doesn't matter which kingdom you're from, which tribe you're from, doesn't matter. These curses fell upon you. Okay? Now, I'll read this, verse 64. And Yahawah shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Okay, which our people are into Christianity, Islam, all these false religions and ideologies, philosophies. They're drunk off of the Babylonian juice, man. All right. Verse 68, and Yahawah shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So they go into slavery. And mainly for the southern kingdom, it was on ships, but some of the northern kingdom were on ships as well. All right, but they were all in slavery. All right, because really it was the southern kingdom. Well, first the northern kingdom went into the Assyrian captivity. Then after that, they fled to the Americas. Right, where no man has dwelt before. Okay? And the southern kingdom went into the Babylonian captivity. And then, obviously Yahawashi, there was some northern kingdom, but it was mainly southern kingdom there when Yahawashi was there. And then after the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, they fled into all sorts of places. But the main one we talk about is Northwest and West Africa. All right, which they were taken from there and then sold all over. Okay, later on in time. And so let me get, talking about them going to the other land. Might as well get that as well. It's in 2nd Esdras, which was taken out of the Old Testament. 2nd Esdras chapter 2. I think it's in chapter 2. Salakia. Salakia, 2nd Esdras chapter 13. 2nd Esdras chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. Okay? Oh, yeah. Deuteronomy 28. I personally don't really know my exact tribe, and a lot of us really don't, know our exact tribe. We can't, say for sure, but, southern, northern kingdom, as long as you're an Israelite, that's what matters right now, right? This is Deuteronomy chapter 28. I'm looking for a specific one. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28. Verse 45, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahawah thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, because thou servest not Yahawah thy God with joyfulness, and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahawah shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And Yahawah shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thine kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. All right? And these curses fell upon all Israel, man. So, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. I want to bring some of those things out. I want to give all praise to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Rakakwadash. Give honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone and row well. All right, peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect of Israel. All right, keep pushing. Shalom.